the handshake that nearly destroyed their company. The fastest way to lose a friend isn't betrayal. It's a handshake without clarity. And the fastest way to destroy a promising business isn't competition. It's a partnership built on assumptions. This is the story of two ambitious founders who trusted each other completely and almost lost everything because they never defined what that trust actually meant. Marcus and Daniel met at a networking event. Marcus was strategic, analytical, and calm under pressure. Daniel was charismatic, visionary, and persuasive. One built systems. The other built momentum. They were opposites in the best possible way. Within weeks, they were meeting daily, sketching ideas on whiteboards, finishing each other's sentences. Felt electric. They weren't just building a company. They were building something meaningful. Their idea was simple: a premium creative agency serving growing digital brands. Marcus would handle operations, finances, and delivery. Daniel would drive sales, branding, and partnerships. They shook hands on a 50-50 split. No lawyers. No formal shareholder agreement. Just two driven men convinced alignment would take care of itself. And in the beginning, it did. The first 6 months were exhilarating. Daniel closed clients faster than they expected. Marcus built clean processes and ensured projects were delivered on time. Revenue climbed steadily. They hired a small team. Clients were satisfied. Profits were reinvested. They celebrated small wins over late-night dinners, talking about expansion, new markets, long-term vision. But here's the quiet danger in early success. It hides structural weakness. When momentum is strong, you don't feel the cracks forming beneath you. The first tension appeared subtly. Daniel wanted to invest aggressively in branding and advertising. Marcus preferred conserving cash and strengthening internal systems. Daniel saw opportunity. Marcus saw risk. Neither was wrong, but they had never defined decision-making authority. Did major investments require unanimous agreement? Could one override the other? They assumed they would figure it out. Then came compensation. Daniel argued that his sales efforts were directly driving revenue and deserved performance bonuses. Marcus believed the 50-50 split already accounted for equal contribution. Daniel felt undervalued. Marcus felt blindsided. Neither had malicious intent. They simply had different interpretations of what equal partnership meant. Assumptions began replacing conversations. Conversations became shorter. Tone shifted. Small disagreements carried emotional weight far beyond the issue at hand. As the company grew, complexity multiplied. New hires asked who they should report to when Marcus and Daniel gave conflicting instructions. Clients sensed internal hesitation during strategic discussions. Deadlines were met, but tension lingered in every meeting. One afternoon, a large prospective client offered a contract that could double their annual revenue. There was one condition: heavy upfront investment in additional staff and infrastructure. Daniel was ready to sign immediately. Marcus hesitated. Cash reserves were limited. The risk felt enormous. The debate lasted hours and ended without resolution. Daniel accused Marcus of thinking too small. Marcus accused Daniel of gambling with stability. That argument didn't end in the office. It followed them home. It followed them into every subsequent decision. Trust began eroding not because of betrayal, but because expectations had never been explicitly defined. Then came the turning point. Without Marcus's final approval, Daniel verbally committed to the large client. Confident Marcus would eventually agree. When Marcus found out, it felt like a violation. Not of money, of principle. The partnership, once built on mutual respect, now felt unbalanced. For Marcus, the issue wasn't the deal. It was authority. For Daniel, the issue wasn't authority. It was ambition. The deal moved forward, but internal harmony collapsed. Cash flow tightened exactly as Marcus feared. The added pressure amplified every unresolved tension. Meetings turned into debates. Decisions became political. Employees sensed instability. And then something worse happened. They stopped communicating honestly. Smiles in front of the team. Frustration behind closed doors. Performance remained outwardly strong, but internally the foundation cracked. Eventually, they sought legal advice, not to strengthen the business, but to protect themselves from each other. Lawyers asked simple questions they should have asked at the beginning. Who has final authority on strategic investments? What happens if one partner wants to exit? How are disputes resolved? What defines equal contribution? How is compensation structured beyond equity? They didn't have answers. The cost of that ambiguity was no longer theoretical. It was emotional. It was financial. It was cultural. After months of strain, Marcus proposed something difficult but necessary. Restructure the partnership. Define roles clearly. Establish voting rights. Tie compensation to measurable performance. Create formal agreements. Daniel resisted at first, seeing it as a loss of trust. But eventually, reality overpowered pride. They brought in mediators. They rebuilt their agreement from the ground up. Ownership remained shared, but operational authority was divided clearly. Strategic investments required documented approval. Compensation included base equity plus performance incentives. Exit clauses were written. Conflict resolution processes were defined. The restructuring didn't instantly repair their friendship, but it restored predictability. And predictability reduces fear. Over time, something surprising happened. Clarity didn't weaken trust. It strengthened it. When expectations were explicit, resentment decreased. When roles were defined, friction diminished. When compensation aligned with contribution, motivation stabilized. The company survived. In fact, it eventually thrived. But not because they avoided conflict, because they confronted ambiguity. Here's the deeper lesson. Most partnerships fail not from dishonesty, but from misalignment. Not from bad character, but from undefined expectations. When you say equal, what does that mean? Equal effort, equal ownership, equal authority, equal time, equal risk. If those definitions live only in your head, conflict is inevitable. Partnership is not just a shared dream, it's a shared contract. And contracts are not signs of distrust. They are frameworks for clarity. Many entrepreneurs fear formal agreements with friends. They believe paperwork introduces coldness into a relationship built on passion. In reality, it does the opposite. It protects the relationship from future misunderstanding. It allows hard conversations to happen early, when stakes are small, rather than later when emotions are explosive. Think about it this way. Clarity is cheaper than conflict. Writing an agreement costs time and legal fees. Repairing broken trust costs far more. Marcus later reflected on the early days and admitted something uncomfortable. He assumed Daniel valued stability the same way he did. Daniel assumed Marcus valued rapid expansion the same way he did. Both were wrong, and neither asked enough questions to discover that difference before signing the handshake deal. Partnerships magnify both strengths and weaknesses. When aligned, they accelerate growth. When misaligned, they amplify tension. The difference is not chemistry, it's clarity. So if you are building something with someone today, ask the questions that feel slightly uncomfortable. Who decides what? What happens when we disagree? How are we compensated? What does success look like individually and collectively? What happens if one of us wants to leave? Those conversations might feel awkward, but silence is far more dangerous. Because the most expensive mistake in business isn't a failed product or a lost client. It's a broken partnership that could have been saved with a clear agreement. Marcus and Daniel didn't fail, but they came close enough to understand something most founders learn too late. Trust is powerful, but structure sustains it. If this story resonated with you, take it as a reminder that ambition must be supported by alignment. Before you build the business, build the agreement. Before you chase growth, define expectations. Clarity doesn't limit opportunity, protects it. If you found value in this episode of Wealth Narrative, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We explore the decisions and hidden dynamics that shape long-term success. And sometimes, the most important lessons are the ones no one warns you about at the beginning.